What are some funny memories you have from raising us kids?
Can I go back for a minute?
Sure.
I'm going to go back to right after my wedding. We went back to my parents' house, and my mother gave me a kiss, and it just stopped me cold because I could not remember her kissing me before. Is that astonishing? Anyway, so what about us kids? Um, you were all very interesting children. You were awake many hours a day and learned a lot on the way.
We are all bad sleepers.
Let me see. Kiana was the worst. Michelle was the worst. Jay slept. It wasn't until I listened to other people who had friends of mine who had children about that same age that I realized. I thought Jay was a terrible sleeper too, but he actually was sleeping much the way other children were. But none of you slept through the night until, I don't know, I think it may have been the first one when you were 2 years old, you slept through the night. Otherwise known as, you don't say, let's have a dozen children at that point. You say, maybe I'll live through this.
So what was your favorite age for your kids?
I don't really remember terribly specifically. Probably around 2.5 and 3. 2.5 is supposed to be the terrible twos, but you're pretty nice then. In 3 years old, 4 years old, you never knew what was going to come next, but it was fun. And you were pretty good at playing together. And you were pretty good traveling with us. I remember, do you remember when we went to, at Easter time, to Spain and then France? And that was the time that Diana feels that if she had stayed and performed with the ballet company, that she may have become a professional dancer.
Diana or Donna?
Diana. And I said, well, I told you that you had a choice. I had people you could stay with whom you knew and who would drive you where you needed to go to performances and all that stuff. And the choice was doing that or coming with us on this trip. And you decided to come with us. And every so often she would get very nostalgic about it. We would be in New York and she'd see some of the girls that you all had danced with who were in the ABT then. And I'd say, well, go say hello. Oh, no, I couldn't do that kind of thing. So I don't know if she still feels regretful. After all, at this particular age, if there was anything to do with dance, she'd be teaching, not performing, likely. I mean, some ballerinas dance into their 50s, but not very many. But here she has a profession, which she loves. So
when we were growing up, you created such wonderful holidays. I think of Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter, our birthdays. What was most important to you about creating that tradition?
Well, in the first place, I think we all enjoyed it, and it was pleasure to start with. The other thing was the amount of things that you learned under those circumstances was incredible. That particular trip when we were in Spain, and then we're in Paris with Pierre and Helgard at that house in Paris, remember? And we had a good time there. In Spain, let me see, the following summer, that was Easter, the following summer, I always went to the library and brought a stack of books like that home, wrote down all the names so I could find them again, I hoped. And I was sitting on the front porch, and you came rushing in, and how old might you have been? 6, 7? Something like that? 8? Not even that old. Anyway, and you had one of those books, and one of the books had pictures of sculpture. And it may have been all in Spain, but a few were in Spain anyway. And you'd say, look at this. Do you remember the day we did X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z? We went around the corner and we saw this sculpture. And the reason I remembered it so strongly was, by pure chance, I was out on the edge of our property weeding or doing something when one of my neighbors came by. It wasn't one of my dear neighbors, but a neighbor. And I said, well, we were going to be gone for a while. We were all going X, Y, and Z. And she said, oh, your children are far too young to appreciate that. That would really be a big waste. And I said, well, we'll just have to see, won't we? And then I thought to myself, I couldn't remember those pieces of sculpture, but you did. Maybe I should have stayed home. But it certainly wasn't something I had done when I was young. And it was just a good beginning, I thought. And we had fun when we did it, at least I did.
So when you reflect on your children, how are they like you and how are they different?
I've never really thought about it that way. You all went through different stages. And you liked school. You mostly liked being with each other and as part of the family. Obviously not all the time. But I don't know, I thought we were a reasonably happy family.
How are we different from you?
I don't know, my growing up was so different from yours. I don't know that there was anything to spot as such. I think as I went along, I had different teachers who particularly liked me because I was a good student and enthusiastic, and I think each one of you did too.
So, as a parent, what's your advice on raising children?
I think all I could say is pretty much how I did or what I did, and that went along the line of at different times you need different things for children. There are times you have to be extremely supportive. There are times you have to allow growth to take place. There are times that everybody, as they grow up, sort of tests the boundaries of everything. And you tested boundaries, and you were told that's how far you could go and no more, which was a varying whatever. And I think that the two of us enjoyed having you, enjoyed being with you. We also enjoyed times when we were by ourselves. There weren't many of them.
So what did parenting teach you?
Patience. Patience that I didn't display very much of before.
So tell me about one of your most memorable family trips.
Well, I guess that particular trip was one of the most memorable because we had such a wide variation of what we did. I thought there were things like the fact that, Franco came to the area we were staying in Spain, and suddenly every path, every road off the main road had the civil guard with their guns. And I don't think anybody had to give you a lot of discussion about what that sort of government was like when you saw that. And you also learned a lot about how money is different in different countries and so forth. When we had to go to the banks and, we would give this many American bills and get lots more bills, but not worth very much in the other. I think you learned a lot, and we learned a lot being with you. And then the part that I particularly loved was when we said to Pierre and Helgar that we would like to visit them in Paris for about 3 days. And they got scared because the maitre d' and cook had told them after they're there for a bit, said, if the next people in this position, because they were State Department, diplomatic, whatever, if the next people coming in had children, they would have retired. But that they were very happy that it was just a couple and all that. So we was like, how is it going to go? And all of you loved what they gave us for breakfast, where you were sweet to them, you thanked them, and after the several days, as we left, they both came out on the sidewalk, wiping tears out of their eyes because sorry to see you go. Do you remember that? You don't? Oh, that's so funny.
Of all the places that you've traveled, where do you most frequently get carried back to in your mind?
It may be Barcelona. We were in France, we were in Paris quite a lot, in the countryside too. But I don't know that I'm carried back that often. I certainly had hoped to be traveling longer. Of course, I traveled several times after your dad died. And I loved Indonesia. I mean, I loved being there. I don't think I know I wouldn't want to live there. Don and I were in Japan together, and that was a great trip because we had an American couple who spoke Japanese. He had lived there longer than she, and he had become an architect of Japanese architecture, and then came back to the United States and got another degree. And then they decided to run these trips, and there were like 6 of us or so in a little van, and it worked out really well. We'd go down the road and we'd say, that house looks so interesting. We'd pull to a halt, and one of them would go in and ask if we could possibly visit, just a few of us and so on. And they would say yes, and it would be really nice.
So is there anywhere that you'd love to travel that you've not visited?
Oh, there are a lot of places. I certainly thought I would go back to England again, and we were in Scotland. I think I ever was in Ireland, but I wasn't drawn to Ireland particularly. I've never been to Germany, and I did want to go. I really wanted to see what happened to Berlin after the war. There are a lot of new buildings, and some of them evidently very, very nice.
So, what would you consider a perfect day?
Well, I guess you start out with having slept well, getting up, and I'm early bird happy, so that's the beginning. If I have a guest here, I enjoy a guest and talking. If I'm here on my own, I enjoy being by myself, having my breakfast, which is cereal and lots of fruit, and reading my paper. And then to be out of doors for a while, which I was for a little while. This morning I did a little bit of pruning, and I have the flowers I'm going to put in that pot. And then a perfect day would have to be with conversation with somebody. I really enjoy being with people, and that is part of the very big thing about being in a retirement community. Because otherwise, if I had stayed, for example, on Overhill Road, which I could well have done, and I didn't feel lonely in the house by myself, I would have been at ease, but I would see some of my friends. It would get to be the point that if I saw one of them one time a week, that would be probably the average. Here, there are always people to talk to, and if I choose, like today, I don't have a dinner date, and I'm going to be calling in my dinner menu and pick up dinner and eat here, which is fine, because I have busy, the next several days, and that's fine. Perfect day is to be out of doors some, to be with people some, to be able to relax in some way or another where it's pretty, and to do something that's a little bit mentally stimulating. It doesn't have to be, esoteric, just something to keep your mind moving.
So what gift that you've received have you cherished the most?
I don't know that I can answer that. I have a number of things that have been given to me, and I think of who gave them to me, and if it's jewelry, I enjoy wearing it. If it's a book or something, I don't know where the bowl is that was there, but I love that bowl, and I think of you every time I look at it. And gifts are lovely because you get part of the person you care about.
What is your favorite smell, and what memory does it conjure up for you?
Your dad particularly liked gardenias. I don't know, there are a lot of nice smells here. It's a very difficult thing for me to answer anymore, because when you get older, your sense of smell goes and is all but gone. I mean, when Kiana and William would come here, both of them, William in particular, would be like a little puppy dog smelling it all. I says, "Oh, it smells so good here." And of course, it means that food isn't as much fun either.
So you're such a wonderful hostess. If you could invite anyone of your friends from your past to a dinner party, who would you invite?
Well, some of them have visited here, not all. Many I would like more. When the Glicks were here, I just had a marvelous time, and the McLowrys were only here like a day and a half or something of that kind, and I'd love to have Maureen and Tom here, but she hates to fly, so I don't think it'll ever happen. But I think of her often because we did so many things with flowers together, and just going to a Safeway shopping center that has roses and daylilies and flowers and all that. It just, every time I see it, it pleases me greatly. I haven't gotten used to it. I'll never get used to it. I just enjoy it.
So, what values did you and Dad really want to pass on to your kids?
I don't know that we ever thought about it that formally. I think we thought about it more if there was an issue on something that was being done that shouldn't be done, in some way you were unpleasant. We just wanted you to be good people, nice people. And essentially having a wide range of experiences actually helped in that, I think, don't you? I mean, there are some children, it wasn't all that many years ago that anybody who was at the financial level that we were would have had a nanny and see their children for an hour or so a day, maybe not. It just, it is, I just find the whole thought of it repulsive, just repulsive.
So what wisdom would you want to pass on to your grandkids? How many grandkids do you have?
I guess 8, huh?
Yep, 8.
I don't know, each one of the grandchildren is so different from the other, aren't they? I mean, when you all were all these various stages of little, you were almost always a part of a conversation if we had guests. And the kind of comment I would get frequently, I would get from this group of people, your children are all so much alike. And then the next comment I would get from somebody else, they're all so different. And I'd say yes to either one of them because they both were true. I don't know if there's wisdom. I think what children learn from you is more from what you do than what you plan to have them learn. If you feel like you can do a certain amount of sotto voce lying, cheating, and stealing, and nobody will notice, I assure you the children will notice.
So what would you say has surprised you most in your life?
In my life?
What you expected versus how it turned out?
I guess I enjoyed my children more than I thought I would. I really do. And and it's been particular pleasure seeing you all continue to grow up.
So what did you expect?
I'm not sure that I expected much. My childhood wasn't an average childhood. It was sort of like living through whatever was going on. My mother did some things that were very nice. Like, for example, I read a lot because there were a lot of other things I didn't do because it was always a little bit of a risk to play with a friend because my mother got involved. It got to be yucky. So I didn't do a lot of that. And she and I would walk quite a long distance, a couple of miles, I guess, from where we lived to the library in Chevy Chase. And I'd start reading my books when I was walking back. It wasn't until my father took me that the librarian said, excuse me, the librarian said, you know, she really shouldn't take so many books out. She should just take a few. And my father said, but she reads them all. He said, she does? And he said, well, if you doubt, when she brings something back, ask her about the books that she's bringing back. So she did that. And after that, she and I picked the books out for me together. She was just wonderful to me.
Can you go back to Uncle Jay for a minute?
Mm-hmm.
What was he like? What was his personality? And were you guys close?
We were very close. He, I guess that he had some insecurity just coming from a family like ours, a mother like ours. But he had friends. He worked hard at things. When he went off to medical school, it wasn't that far away, so he came home some weekends.
Where did he go to school?
He went to the University of Maryland medical school, which was in Baltimore. And he, when he started, in the school studying mental problems, he decided that our mother had definable mental problems. And he wrote a letter to my father, which I saw much later. And he was very protective of me, which I needed with my mother, who would ignore or decide something had to be done that we didn't want to do or be part of, or and he was very good to me.
So how did he pass?
How old was he? I was 15, so he had to be about 22.
What happened?
It was during World War II. We had a car. It really needed tires, but you couldn't get tires. I don't know, whatever was recommended we had done. My father was away one weekend, and he came home, and he took the girlfriend, who I think was just shopping for a doctor husband so she could live well. She's a very pretty girl, but whatever. And he took her out to dinner, and the car had blowout. Went off the road on the side. There was an opening in the sunroof, and he was hit front and back by the sunroof. I don't know if there were seat belts at that point. I don't even recall that, but he certainly didn't have it on. So he was, that was over the weekend, and he lived in a coma till maybe Thursday of that week. It was kind of Never Never Land, very difficult. And of course, Jay, having lived with his aunt and grandmother, who adored him, he adored them, and they gave him a lot of loving care of the sort my mother really wasn't capable of.
So how long did he live with them?
Just a year, as far as I know.
When he was 7?
Yeah.
What was your father like?
He was warm. My mother wasn't. He was, he enjoyed a lot of things and so on, and did some things with us. And he was pretty good company. And he, I never would have had any self-confidence at all if I was with someone, if both of my parents were like my mother. I really just wouldn't have. In fact, it's hilarious to think of. When I was in high school, junior high school, I'd bring home report cards, and my father would sign them. I don't know that he ever said, "That's nice," or anything like that. He just signed them. And then I figured out later, because it was kind of funny, he had a particular friend who was a colonel, I think. Fred Klinke, isn't that a terrible name? And who was particularly good at math, and evidently I must have been too, because he and I would have conversations, and I was still, high school student. And there were times, for example, that my mother wouldn't go to a party or a cocktail party or anything. Sometimes he'd take me, which wasn't really suitable, but I found people to talk to and I'd enjoy it. And one of them was Fred Klinke. So he must have recognized that I was doing well in school, but probably thought I would be spoiled if I was told that. So I wasn't told that.
So what have I neglected to ask that you'd like to answer?
I don't know. I think it's all I would have left were sort of things to think about the years you grew up at home and the years you've grown up away from home. And I'm very proud of each and every one of you, each in your very different way. And I'm very happy to see when you're together and appear to maybe remain friends the rest of your lives, which would be very pleasant. And I don't expect a lot. I get a lot more than I expect from you and about you. And I find that very pleasant. And of course, the grandchildren, they are, it's sort of like most things. You get out as much as you put in. So with Mark, having been with us so many summers, without parents around at all, very close to him. I mean, some of the other children, Maya is pretty outgoing and warm, so you feel close to Maya. But still not the same sort of closeness as Mark. When I was able to go shopping with the girls, we had a good time. I don't really know that I could do it at all anymore. I mean, walking is, it not only is, it's difficult, it is, I mean, I think it would be terrible if I went shopping with them and fell. That would be trauma. So not good. But I must admit, I'm astonished. 2 times I have gone shopping without Corey along, and come home, given him things that he really liked. I mean, because I really didn't know what he liked, but all I could do was say, I could see this on him, and it was fun. Occasionally, I can feel close to Cooper, and he has a certain amount of sparkle about him that is fun. And I don't know what Bailey is being counseled about, but he's got an awful lot of sparkle to him.
So, winding up, is there anything that you want to say?
Oh, I don't really know. I think that I guess the only thing that I could contribute in something like this is that I think that what your father accomplished was really remarkable. And did I talk to you at all about, oh my goodness, Diane Graham, who, Pierre's daughter, who called me when she was in France and Helgard had just died. And then, I don't know, she sent me this long letter about, and in part of it was how much she and her husband, who had both worked at Don's office, had learned from being there, about how if you do something, you do your best. It isn't, that's okay, that's, whatever, it's all right. It is, do your best and take pride in it. And she said, the things we learned, we tried to teach our children. But it is just remarkable the way he grew up and how difficult things were. And he had, nothing behind him of strength. That's what we gave each other, and that's probably why we were married that happily that long. Because we accomplished things together. And I'm sure that in the days of the independent woman, that people would say, but you were helping in his way of life and his whatever, and that is true. But what we did together, which made it very, very good. What more?
I love you, Mama. I love you.
I gotta go put wrapping on a piece of cake.
It's Mija.
Oh, you sweet little creature.
Thank you, Mama.
You're welcome. I gotta call and see if I can deliver a cake.